Sullivan, and I'm really honoured to be here today in the UN and the Commission of Social Development to tell you my story. I always like to start at the end of my story. For me, this is the best part. I'm extremely proud to say that I am a doctor of psychology. In 2012, I graduated with a PhD, and I work as an associate professor in the wonderful Department of Psychology in Maynooth University, Kildare in Ireland. I'm a successful academic. I've over €3 million in funding for programmes aimed at eradicating poverty. My research has been published in top-class journals like Nature Communications, and I have awards for teaching and research. I am a success. More importantly than that, I'm a happy human being. I have a loving marriage, 3 beautiful sons, and a lovely grandson. We own a home, we holiday together, and we laugh a lot. I like to start at the end of my story because if you would have known me 25 years ago, a lone parent, living on social welfare, living in a one-room flat in the heart of Dublin, cleaning toilets in a train station, you would not have expected me to be here today. Or if you'd known me 30 years ago, age 16, living in a homeless hostel with my 6-month-old son, no qualifications or hope, you would not have expected me to be here today. Or if you go back further 40 years, at age 6, the daughter of 2 heroin-addicted parents, neglected, abused, hungry and scared, you would not have expected me to be here today. I'm one of the few girls I know who have grew up in extreme poverty, who has been able to escape my destiny. And I'm here today to share some insights into the people, policies and practices that have helped me to achieve my full potential. As I said, I grew up extremely poor, in real deprivation. My parents were drug addicts, I lacked food, I lacked love, there was no care, and there was very little security. It's very important to say that my mum was also born poor. Her mum before her was born poor, and so was her mother. Poverty reproduces itself in the same way that privilege does. And extreme poverty affects every child in exactly the same way, irrespective of your country or your continent. It infiltrates every part of your life. As a young girl, I learned the world was not a safe place. I learned that I was not valuable, and I learned that I was no good. My opportunities to thrive were limited by the fact that I grew up in a community dominated by poverty. Being poor made me vulnerable to sexual and emotional abuse. It taught me that my place in life was to serve other people. I say this to remind you that poverty underpins all sorts of psychological and social hurts. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. It places people at risk of abuse, disease, depression, suicide, and addiction. By the time I started school, I was already hurt and afraid. I lacked trust, and I was very angry. Education is not designed for poor people. It expects everyone to behave the same way. We're told to sit down, to listen, to pay attention, to learn the same way. But being hungry in the morning, having urine-stained clothes, fearing what was happening at home affected my ability to behave like everybody else. And despite the fact that I was a very bright girl, like now, a very bright woman, who could read by the age of 5 and was full of potential, I failed at school. Despite the fact that I had a teacher who washed and fed me every day, and another who told me I was great at English, I failed. The darkness of poverty was in me, and I couldn't control it. It made it hard for me to follow rules, to be on time, to turn up. I didn't have anyone supporting me or guiding me. I didn't know anyone who went to university or anyone who had a good job, and I didn't know I could be more than this. I got pregnant at age 15 and I was made homeless, and I left school. I didn't have any hope back then. My goal was to secure a social welfare payment and hopefully get a council house. All I could hope for was security, and for 7 years I floundered just like my mother did, broke, homeless and alone. There was no other life for a girl like me. But even broken people stop at some point and ask the question, is this it for me? I believe we're all driven to grow towards the light. And I was really lucky that when I looked for help, there was abundance of supports available. It was the Celtic Tiger in Ireland, and there was funding to help poor people do better. At age 21, living in Dublin and alone, I went to a local community worker and asked him to help me. He guided me towards 2 of the most important things that have changed my life. These were therapy and education. He was a kind man. He was local, so I trusted him. He told me I was special and that I could do more. These words meant something. Within a week of asking him for help, I was sat in front of a therapist. It was a free service. There were no waiting lists, and it was local. This changed my life. Within a month, I was attending an adult education course. It was a free service. It was local, and this changed my life. Then I met Karen, a girl like me who told me she was studying Trinity College, Dublin. I said, no way. Poor people can't go to places like that. She explained that there was a course to help people like us. It was free. They paid for your childcare, and they cared about you. And I felt something then, something I hadn't felt for a long time. Hope. Seeing a girl like me do something different was a game changer. Maybe I could go to Trinity College too. Something important to remember about poor people is that we're hurt people. We're not broken people. I, like many girls in my community, have an abundance of skills and capabilities. I am brave. I can fight for what I want. I can manage stress. I have a drive to survive. Diverse people bring diverse skill sets. I never needed changing. I needed the correct conditions to thrive and demonstrate my abilities. I applied to the course Karen was on, and I got in. Back then, it was easier to get into courses like that. They only wanted you to be motivated. I went to university through an access program. In Ireland, we do policy and practice on access really, really well, especially in my university. This course was a year-long course which taught me how to learn, and I began to thrive. But importantly, wrapped around that course was good funding policies. It was free. I got childcare support. I got travel. And my books were paid for. And I didn't lose anything. My social welfare, my security, it was safe. I'm going on, I know. Wrapped around me were the staff as well in the course. They told me I could when I doubted myself. They fought for me. They saw past my anger. My potential began to show, and I flourished in education. It changed my life. I cannot explain to you how wonderful it is to learn that you're not a stupid girl. School, failings, my past, the metrics you use, they had all ignored my poverty and taught me that I wasn't very clever. When the conditions were right, I learned I'm amazing, intelligent, and capable. I was still poor, a lone parent, a child of addicts, but now I had support and opportunities and a growing belief in myself. I graduated with a first-class honours, got a PhD scholarship. I had 2 more babies along the way. I didn't like to make it easy. But I began to teach, and I began to shine. My education taught me that I was not to blame for my failings. The structures and systems in which we live are unjust. My education also taught me that privileged people have the power to do something to change the destiny of poor people, but they often do nothing. This lesson hurt me more than any of my childhood experiences. This lesson has made me determined to use my privilege to help. And I believe my privilege is to have been poor and to have survived. And so there are 3 things that are essential for my success. The first and most importantly is I needed people. I had 5 good adults through my life who pushed and pulled me to see and feel differently about myself. The second was great policies to support people, poor people. These included free education, community workers, rent assistance, housing, childcare, and access to therapy. And finally, the practices of them policies were really important. There were people who went the extra mile for me. There were programs which saw my potential over my behaviour, and there were many opportunities for me to try things and fail. The people cared, the policies created safe pathways, and the practices supported me to see and be a different me. Every day I feel grateful to be where I am. I never forget my past. I am now in a wonderful position to be able to use my experience and my skills to help young women like me to thrive. I'm so lucky to work in a university which wants to provide opportunities to talented people from all backgrounds, and I get to be supported to lead programs and practices which aim to ensure everyone can flourish, irrespective of their class or condition. Finally, I'd just like to say thank you to the wonderful people who changed my life. Miss Arkinson, Mr. Pickering, Mal, Irina, Karen, Audrey, Mac, Gemma, Kevin. Without their belief in me, I would not be this brave. Thank you for listening.